Hey TV fans, Bored now, back with you on this video. I will be reviewing from Season 1, Episode 10. The episode is called Oh, the Places We'll Go. It is the Season 1 finale, so full spoilers from the start of this review. And it's another really solid episode and a nice conclusion to this season with some big questions posed for season 2. It definitely sets up season 2 quite nicely. So more spooky stuff going on in the woods with Boyd and Sarah as they come out of the tent and they see this really strange gothic looking setting with all kinds of like cobwebs, and it seems like some sort of ice maybe covering the trees. So they continue to follow the light to where they were being guided from, where she was hearing the voices coming from, and there's some great stuff not only between them but with Boyd losing his mind in the forest because he just gets really frustrated at some point and literally starts shouting at the trees. It's one of those great rants that Harold Pinio does so well, where he just like snaps out of nowhere and loses his mind. And once again, this show is so much about psychology and just what this character has been through and his growing frustration, and it works nicely with their dynamic. Then there's definitely been moments where he's had to be there for her, even though he doesn't like particularly like her at this point, but she's here for him in this episode as well. Like, she motivates him to keep going because like she points out that you've got to do this so you can get back to see your son. And she also gives him the opportunity to like speak to his wife once again, and she leads him to the place, and where it all leads at the end of the episode, and this is where the two plots start to correlate, and there's a side in the other plot which connects to this plot. Is they go to the tree trunk that we've seen, and they're led there by the boy then we've seen, which Victor has also seen, which we know is from his past, so his part of the story comes back into play. But there's a couple of different things with Boyd in this one, where at some point he sees spiders get on him, or they appear to. It's definitely one of those moments where it might just be in his head, but they appeared to like bite him, and Sarah has to help him and treat him like she uses something from the forest to like calm the wounds. But some of this could be in Boyd's head, but ultimately they're led to the tree, and Boyd sees the boy, which, as I said, Victor has seen, and he goes into the tree and he says to Sarah, well, she goes into the tree because he says go in there, but just wait for me, I've got to do something. And that's when he starts following the boy, and that links to the other side of the plot. So on the other side of the plot, that they've been building this radio tower and getting ready, and that becomes the big thing in this episode when it comes to the people left in the town. And some of this stuff I was getting confused, like I was thinking it was the other episode, like the previous one. But like, for example, the stuff with Julie louting at Jade for being an ass to the father, to Jimmy, that's actually in this episode. So that's a standout scene with Julie like standing up for her father, standing up to Jade. And that's the big dramatic moment in the episode from the other plot, is then they finally get this radio up and running. They get the stand up, and it just becomes this big event, a bit like when they were doing a similar thing in Lost. And Jade goes from being really negative to one point to getting really excited, where Jimmy just gives him a motivational speech, and he like leaps up. He's almost too excited. Like, he is very erratic, but he does his bit on the roof, and you get Donna and it's Donna and Jimmy eventually just doing this radio bit where they're trying to connect. They get it up and running, but the problem is that there's a storm. And the direction of the episode and the way it sets up this atmosphere is really good, because we also see the effects on Boyd and Sarah in the forest. Like, they feel the effects of this storm. So you get a good sense of linking the two plots and the atmosphere that then this storm creates, and the problems it brings up for the characters, because time's running out where the storm is getting worse, so they've only got a few minutes to try and make a connection. Otherwise they'll just have to give up and try again the next day. And Donna's telling Jimmy, you're out of time pretty much, you've got to get inside, because at one point Julie is next to him, and I think it's Julie's helping out, and eventually Boyd is no, go in. Sorry, not Boyd. Jimmy's go inside, help your mother, stay there, I'll be there in a moment. And so then Donna's there helping him out, and it's again one of these TV things. It gets really close up to the point where they just have to go inside because the storm is too bad. But before they do, they actually get through to someone, but it takes a dark turn, a dark twist, because the person on the other end appears to know who Jimmy is, and he has a warning to him, and it's warning him about Tabitha, and I think he mentions his boy, but he's almost threatening Jimmy's family, Tabitha, you better keep an eye on her. And Jimmy's freaked out just because this guy knows him, this guy who, as far as he knows, is a random guy on the other end of this radio. But then he seems to be mentioning his family, so that makes him really freaked out. And this leads to this dramatic end of the episode, because Tabitha gets through this tunnel, and it seems to link to the other side of the plot with Boyd, but then also the stuff with Victor, because she also sees the same Boyd that Boyd sees and that Victor has seen, and she gets led down inside this tunnel by the boy, and then there's a threat, someone's heading towards her, it appears as though someone's about to attack her, and yeah, it's something to do with what Jimmy's being warned about over the radio. It appears to be maybe a creature, and that's a cliffhanger at the end of the episode, because Jimmy is pretty sure she's in danger, asks where she is, and he comes rushing over to the house into the basement. And as I said, it's left on a cliffhanger because there appears to be something heading towards Tabitha, and Jimmy goes in after her, so it's sort of unknown. And as I said, this stuff is happening with Boyd on the other side of the plot. The other main stuff in the episode is it's kind of people making plans for if they do make it home, and there's some emotional stuff once again with Kirsty and with Christy, I should say. Christy and Kenny, because for the first time it appears as though maybe their relationship isn't going to continue. Maybe if they get out of here, she could go back to her girlfriend, who we heard she was engaged to before she came to the place. So they have this thing where they're both making plans, and Christy gives him a list of places she would go once she gets out of there, and he's we could go together, and she has this moment where she's I really like you, but I'm engaged, and you've known this all along. And it's just this weird thing which has always been hanging over them in the show, because they seem to be a really solid couple, but there's also this sense of the Nick could just be a casual thing because she does have this person back home, but then it's just this weird kind of like grey area where I don't know, like she's kind of with him as long as they're there. It seems like a firm relationship, but then she would have a choice if she ever got to go home, and now then it's looking like they could potentially go home. She's having thoughts and she's conflicted, and they have a scene later on together where she like gives him a kiss on the cheek, and like he's there for her, supporting her, and she hints in that scene that she might be ready to pick him, but it's not like 100% sort of settled. And but that's part of the theme of this final episode, just people talking about what they'll do when they get home, if they do get home, and that's obviously a big stuff between those two characters. And the other like add-on at the end of the episode is that after we get the big cliffhanger, we see that a bus randomly arrives into town, so that's definitely setting up then there's going to be some new characters next season. We've obviously had quite a few deaths this season, so I guess there's characters who can be replaced, and who knows how Tabitha's fate is going to turn out. So really solid finale. I think it really did the trick in building on some stuff. You had a dramatic, tense event with them trying to make radio contact. You also had some decent stuff again in the woods with Boyd and with Sarah, and yeah, it did a good job of, like, as I said, building on stuff but also posing questions and setting things up for next season. And yeah, it's been an intriguing first season, definitely some ups and downs, some stuff I've not been so keen on, but overall I've been into it. Like, there's been some good suspense, some decent character stuff, some decent acting, and yeah, like a good sort of mystery type show where it answers some questions but then poses some more, and definitely makes you intrigued into seeing where it's all gonna lead. So that's my thoughts on the season 1 finale of From. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you've seen it. Like and subscribe as always, and I will be back soon with the review of the first episode of season 2. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.